In a recent survey conducted by the National Enquirer, respondents were asked to name the most evil villains in all of fiction. When the votes were tallied and organized into a top 10 list, the journalists were stunned to find that in third place, just above Thanos and just below the Dark Lord Sauron, was none other than Skyler White, the wife of Walter White, the meth-cooking mastermind from the AMC television series Breaking Bad. But how could this be? Could a fictional television housewife really be that evil?
This is why it's the devil.
As it turns out, yes. Yes, she can.
Yo.
Throughout the 5-season run of Breaking Bad, the hatred for Skyler White grew and grew to the point where the actress herself, Anna Gunn, received threats and venomous online comments from fans of the show.
This is my own private domicile and I will not be harassed!
In response, Gunn and the show's creator Vince Gilligan did some self-reflection and took full responsibility for the way the character was perceived. I'm just kidding. They blamed sexism.
As an actress, I realize that viewers are entitled to have whatever feelings they want about the characters they watch, but as a human being, I'm concerned that so many people react to Skyler with such venom. Because Skyler didn't conform to a comfortable ideal of the archetypical female, she had become a kind of Rorschach test for society, a measure of our attitudes toward gender.
Back when the show first aired, Skyler was roundly disliked. I think that always troubled Anna Gunn, and I can tell you it always troubled me. Because Skyler, the character, did nothing to deserve that.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the
fans of Breaking Bad
who are wrong.
This line of argument is extremely common in Hollywood. If you don't like a female character because of X reason,
then you must be a misogynist.
But this belief is completely off base, especially in the context of Gilligan's own Albuquerque extended universe, as evidenced by the overwhelming love and affection that fans pour over the female lead from Better Call Saul, Kim Wexler. We'll discuss her character later in the video, but for now, let's go ahead and point out that the existence of Kim Wexler, as well as Jane, Marie, Holly, and even Wendy, completely blows the sexism argument apart. If the fans hated women, they'd hate these other women too, but they don't. So it must be something about each character's personality and actions rather than their gender that has created this split reaction. If we want to understand the actual reasons why Skyler is so hated, we've got to take a trip down memory lane and analyze her actions throughout the show. So let's do it. A viewer's first impression of a character is critical because no matter what happens afterward, the viewer will always judge new situations, new dialogue, and new behaviors against the baseline that was set in the first few appearances. In the pilot episode of Breaking Bad, our first impression of Walter is as follows. He's a passionate teacher who is overqualified for his dead-end job. He's obviously upset about turning 50 with little to show for it in terms of his career and many financial problems at home. He has recently been diagnosed with inoperable lung cancer. Most people in his life disrespect him and belittle him.
How'd it feel to be on?
It's not gonna bite you, all right? Looks like Keith Richards with a glass of warm milk.
Despite this, and despite some other wild circumstances, he loves his family.
Skyler, you are the love of my life.
We immediately sympathize with this guy. He seems like a normal, middle-aged, middle-class man who's been beaten down by the world, and even by the people close to him. And to top it all off, he's been diagnosed with a terminal illness. So even when we later see him acting smug or condescending to Jesse or Skyler or Saul, we understand why he's doing it. We see those later interactions through the lens of how we saw him earlier, at the beginning. But what's our first impression of Skyler? She nags him at breakfast and makes him eat veggie bacon. She lets Walter Jr. disrespect his own dad.
Buy a new hot water heater. How'd it feel to be on?
When Walt comes home late to a surprise party, The very first words out of her mouth are,
"Oh, you're so very late."
She stands idly by while her brother-in-law Hank just dunks on Walter left and right.
You got a brain the size of Wisconsin. But we're not gonna hold that against you.
And finally, at the end of the first episode, Skyler White commits an offense so heinous, so
Evil.
so unfathomably cringe that it defies logic. What we all witnessed in the last few minutes of the pilot was one of the most brutal moments in the entirety of the Albuquerque timeline. It was worse than Walt having 8 men killed in 3 separate prisons. Worse than Saul and Kim ruining Howard's life and watching him get murked in their apartment. Worse than Finger shooting the German engineer. Worse than Gus poisoning everyone in Don Eladio's hacienda. Worse than Hector wasting that delicious burrito that Tuco worked so hard to make. Worse than when Lalo told Kim to put her shoes on. And even worse than when Walt let Jane overdose on heroin and indirectly caused the deaths of 167 people in a plane crash. In the closing moments of episode 1, Skyler gave Walt the pity handy. I could do a whole video on this scene alone because it is truly
Baffling.
I mean, what the hell were the writers thinking? Was this supposed to make me like Skyler? Was it supposed to make her seem quirky? It plays more like a dirty deleted scene from Malcolm in the Middle than anything in the rest of the show. She doesn't even look away from the online shopping she's doing on her laptop. She doesn't make eye contact. She nags Walt about painting the bedroom for the coming baby.
But I really need you to paint at some point.
She complains that he's not into it and belittles him once again, even though this man is obviously having a bad day. She doesn't even have the decency to give him the old Haley Welsh.
How much you charge for a Wendy?
And what's her excuse for all this disrespect?
Don't worry about the baby. This is just for you.
Yeah, as if Walt's packing the M60 in his pants and it's just gonna blast through her uterus. Dude, what in the hell is this? Nothing about this scene makes her likable. In fact, it makes her seem like a lazy, nagging, condescending
Bitch!
Bravo, Vince.
I don't suppose you could kiss my ass?
With the way Skyler treats Walt in the first few episodes alone, it's no wonder people hated her, and it's no surprise why people loved Walt's Joker arc. Because when you act like Skyler,
Get what you f***ing deserve!
But Skyler didn't stop with the pity handy. Oh no, she had plenty more cringe up her sleeve. The first example was nagging Walt about his alleged weed smoking after finding out he had terminal cancer.
He sells me pot.
Pot. Marijuana, yeah. I kinda like it.
Are you out of your mind?
Get off my ass. Yeah, Mr. White!
Then after Walt snaps on her, she runs to Jesse to tell him off, but instead of leveling with him like a normal person, she goes full Quentin Tarantino on him.
My name is Skyler White, yo.
I appreciate it, man.
My husband is Walter White, yo.
Hey, download this. I don't know how to do that.
Do not sell marijuana to my husband, or you will be one sorry individual.
I'm gonna get medieval on your ass.
Walt decides he doesn't want to take money from his old college friend to pay for the cancer treatment, so Skyler puts him through a struggle session featuring a fan favorite character, the talking pillow. Walter Jr. had the best reaction to this.
Let it all out.
This is bullshit.
But on a serious note here, can we just acknowledge that Walt's reasoning is actually pretty sound in this scene? He's tired of living his pathetic life, and he just wants to go out with some dignity, like a man, without being a burden to anyone. And if Skyler had just let him die, no one else's life would have been ruined by Walt's future actions. Something to think about.
Just give up and die.
Next, as Walt's behavior put her under more and more stress, Skyler started smoking during her pregnancy. Look, lady, if you're gonna take your anger out on your kids, at least take it out on Walter Jr., damn. Whoop his crippled ass if it makes you feel better, but leave the baby out of it. Skyler was always having meltdowns too, and not even productive ones, and not even for any good reason.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Shut up, bitch! Shut up.
And finally, as if Vince Gilligan was actively trying to outdo the cringe of the pity handy, he almost succeeded with the infamous scene from Season 2, Episode 11, in which Skyler sings Happy Birthday to Ted Beneke in the style of Marilyn Monroe.
Happy birthday to you.
Man, if only I could see how Breaking Bad would have been without Skyler. Oh wait, I can.
Oh shit, turn on channel 3.
The third major reason why Skyler was so hated was the Ted Beneke plotline. In order to make extra money for the family while Walt gets cancer treatment, Skyler goes back to work for her old boss, who she ends up crushing on and eventually sleeping with. Not only that, but she even admits it to Walt right before a family dinner, then goes on like nothing happened.
Ted.
Emotional damage.
Well hey, at least she made eye contact with Walt that time. So, let me get this straight. Skyler was mad at her husband for being generally irresponsible and skirting around the DEA, so she decided to hook up with a guy who was also generally irresponsible and was skirting around the IRS? At least she's consistent. Oh yeah, and then she gives all of Walt's drug money away to Ted to bail him out of debt.
The money, Skyler, where is the rest?
I gave it to Ted.
You're so dumb.
And before you say,
But she did that to keep the IRS from finding out about the money laundering at the car wash and finding out about Walt.
none of that would have been an issue if she hadn't started screwing around with Ted in the first place. No Ted, no connection to Skyler, no connection to Walt, you're in the clear.
Yes, science!
The last reasons for Skyler's downfall were all the instances of hypocrisy. As previously mentioned, it was pretty hypocritical of her to ditch Walt for Ted when both of these guys were criminals. Even in the first few episodes, Skyler spends a lot of time talking down to Walt and disrespecting him. As his wife, she's the one person in the world who should have been hyping him up in his time of frustration and despair, and she can't even do that, which is part of the reason he turns to the meth business at all. Instead of bringing that Laura Linney energy from the end of Mystic River, Skyler brought the Laura Linney energy from Ozark. If you know, you know. After finding out about Hank's increasing medical expenses following the attempt on his life, Skyler rashly offers to cover the cost and makes up a story about Walt becoming an online gambling expert without even waiting a day or two to run it by Walt first. Now that sounds more like something he or Jesse would have done, and if Walt had come up with that idea on the fly, she would have berated him afterward, guaranteed. Skyler spends the first half of the show complaining that Walt is dangerous, reckless, evil, blah blah blah. But then she agrees to launder money for him, even after he says she can opt out. And best of all, she even starts to like it. Despite all the danger Walt and his family find themselves in as a result of his actions, Skyler never tells Hank the truth. Why not? She was willing to kick him out, divorce him, cut ties with him. She was willing to cut him out of their children's lives. Why not go for the full measure? At least the drama and the threats to the family would end. But she continues to lie and hide his secret, even when doing so threatens the family she's allegedly so concerned about. I mean, when you think about it, Skyler and Walt are really perfect for each other. They both claim to care so much about their family, but their actions constantly demonstrate the opposite. And lastly, Skyler puts on a good show, acting like she's concerned about his initial cancer diagnosis, even though we all know he probably got it from eating veggie bacon.
This smells like Band-Aids.
Eat it.
Okay, now that we've covered most of Skyler's war crimes, let's quickly talk about Kim Wexler. My theory about her character is that near the end of Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan actually looked back on his creation with a clear head, in a way that was probably very similar to how Star Wars director George Lucas watched the rough cut of Phantom Menace for the very first time, and I suspect that Vince's reaction was almost identical.
It's bold in terms of jerking people around, but I may have gone too far in a few places.
Yeah, no shit.
I think this realization set him on a quest to right the wrongs of the past. Kim Wexler is the woman Skyler White was always supposed to be, and this is clear right from the very start. She's confident and competent. She's cool. She's calm under pressure and rarely over-emotional. She doesn't nag, rather she questions and probes deeper in a more detached and Socratic way. And when she does challenge Jimmy, she does it on his level, not from her high horse. She's not petty. She doesn't belittle her man. In fact, it's clear that she loves him for who he is and is scared of how similar they are on the inside. Despite all of Jimmy's chicanery, she never cheats on him. And if nothing else, I think we can at least say that, unlike Skyler, she's the type of woman who can take one for the team when doing the deed. Yup. Now don't get me wrong, there are a lot of Kim Wexler simps out there. Too many, if you ask me, and these guys need to tone it down, because this woman is a bitch.
You called her bitch.
A cool, loyal, fun, genuine, and level-headed bitch. But a bitch nonetheless, and I say that without any intentional irony or humor. She committed her fair share of crimes and misdemeanors and basically got away with it. She had fun being Slippin' Kimmy. She enabled Jimmy. She turned a blind eye to many of his schemes, and worst of all, she got Howard killed. She was part of the problem. She was the anti-hero. This is Taylor Swift. On paper, Kim should have been the one the fans hated. On paper, she's the type of childless, boss babe career woman that online misogynists like myself can't stand. And Skyler White, the loving, stay-at-home mom of two, should have been our heroic, conscientious objector. But that didn't happen, all because of the choices these characters made and how they treated their significant other. The real test is to imagine what each show would be like if these two characters were swapped. Would we have hated Kim if she were married to Walt? How would she have reacted to those circumstances? And would we have loved Skyler as Jimmy's coworker and girlfriend? A better question, how would Skyler have handled Lalo's accusations in Season 5, Episode 9 of Better Call Saul? Now that's a real test.
My brother-in-law is a DEA agent.
Oh, really?
Do not sell marijuana to my husband. You get me?
But maybe it really does come down to the physiognomy and the superficial characteristics of these two actresses. I mean, casting calls and auditions exist for a reason. You can't just put any person in any role and expect it to work. RJ Mitte couldn't have played Jesse. Jonathan Banks would never have been cast to play Gus. And nobody, and I mean nobody, in their right mind would have hired guys that look like this to play some badass cartel assassins. I mean, come on, these guys need to lay off the Pollos Hermanos, am I right? I mean, who would cast these guys as the Salamanca twins? I mean, who would think of such a thing? You'd have to be, I mean, you'd really, oh wait, they did cast them. They cast them in the Colombian Breaking Bad. Oh, man.
Muy fácil.
Muy fácil.
Okay, so maybe some of it does come down to looks and acting ability. But are we, as the audience, really so shallow that it all just revolves around hotness? Is Rhea Seehorn just hotter than Anna Gunn? Does she just have a more attractive aura? I don't know. Everyone probably has a different answer for that one. But to me, it was overwhelmingly a writing issue through and through. So I think I can speak for most fans when I say, in this particular case, shame on you, Vince. Shame on you.
You can't keep getting away with it!
I should have stopped them when I had the chance.
Bitch!